Welcome back to Merrimack Valley Gourmet. We are back here at the Merrimack Valley Golf Club in Methuen, courtesy of Simply Elegant Catering with Michelle and Sam Ambra. And tonight we have Chef Bethany Sullivan with us again, and she's going to be making some great treats for the Super Bowl. Super Bowl weekend is coming up, and we all know it wouldn't be a Super Bowl party without some fabulous food. So tell us about what you're going to make.
Well, today we kind of were inspired by the Super Bowl being in New Orleans this year, so we're doing some New Orleans style food. The first thing we're going to make tonight, we're going to make fried shrimp po' boys with a Creole mayonnaise on top. So that is what we're going to start out with. I'm going to make the Creole mayonnaise first, so let's get started. All right, so with the Creole mayonnaise, we're going to start out with 2 cups of mayonnaise. To that, I am going to add 1 cup of sour cream, 1 tablespoon of mustard, 2 tablespoons of hot sauce, 2 tablespoons of chopped flat leaf parsley, and 1/2 of a lemon juiced. And then I'm going to add these fancy little tiny gherkins, and they are called cornichons. And those are chopped up, and we'll toss those in there. Mix this all together.
Bethany, could you chop the cornichons up in a food processor instead of doing it by hand?
I wouldn't. It's just a rough chop on them, so I wouldn't go too crazy. The food processor might liquefy them before they chop them.
Okay, so by
just a
hand.
rough chop on them. Yeah, you do want little chunks in there, so that's what makes it good. You're going to want to take this mayonnaise and refrigerate it for a couple hours to get it nice and chilled and firmed up a little. Now this is pretty spicy too, and we're going to put just a little touch of kosher salt and a little bit of white pepper in there as well. This makes quite a bit. It makes about 3 cups, but you're going to want to put a lot of it on that sandwich, so you'll use it.
Definitely.
All right, so we're going to start with the shrimp. You're going to want to defrost your shrimp, and then you can put it in 2 cups of buttermilk and 2 tablespoons of hot sauce. You're going to want to leave that in there for probably at least a half an hour before you go ahead and cook the shrimp. Now I'm going to make the breading for the shrimp. So I have 2 cups of fine ground cornmeal. I'm going to add to that 1.5 tablespoons of onion powder, 1.5 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika, and then a pinch of cayenne. A pinch goes a long way with cayenne, so just be gentle with that. I'll just mix that up a little.
I know I've had some accidents with cayenne where it's like, you put in a spoonful of, it's inedible.
Yes, you'll regret that later. So then we're going to take the shrimp that we've had soaking in the buttermilk and a little bit of hot sauce. We're going to take some of that and toss it here into the cornmeal. And get those shrimp nice and dredged in there. Now we're using a home fryolator. You can buy them anywhere, and they're pretty safe, and they're a lot of fun.
We have one at home. We do all kinds of stuff in it. Onion rings, donuts.
French fries. Try to save ours for special occasions like the Super Bowl. You take those shrimp and stick them right in the basket, maybe about 8 to 10 at a time, so you don't want to overload it. Probably be enough for 1 sandwich. That'll be perfect.
I love the sizzling sound it makes.
Oh, yeah.
Makes you hungry.
Get that down in there. And those are going to cook for about 3 minutes. Let's give those a few minutes.
So Bethany, I heard you've been researching the history of the po' boy.
I have. I've been researching the history of the po' boy, and it's really interesting, actually. I didn't know where it had come from. I have actually been to New Orleans, and I've actually had a shrimp po' boy in New Orleans a long, long time ago.
Really?
Yes, and that's kind of what inspired me to make it. But the story behind it was so interesting to me. I guess it came about in about the 20s. There were a set of brothers, the Martin brothers. And they were trained car workers when they first got to New Orleans, but then they decided to open a restaurant. a couple years after they opened the restaurant in 1927, the train car workers went on strike. And the public was so in favor of it and were supporting them so thoroughly. And the Martin brothers went, well, these are our friends. We know these guys. And they felt really bad that they were on strike and that they were having such a hard time with it. So they decided to give them free food while they were on strike. So they invented these giant sandwiches with tons of meat in them and all the local things, the shrimp, the crawfish, and any kind of meat really. And they gave them to these guys for free for the whole strike. So they said, you know, every time one of the guys came down the street, they said, oh, look at this poor boy. We need to give him a free sandwich. And they invented the po' boy sandwich, and now that's still what it's called today. So I thought that was really cool.
That's a really great story, you know, and I mean, I bet they wish when they went back to work they were still
I guess
sitting on the street eating po' boys.
They had made it so popular during the strike that for years they were known for it. They ended up making a lot of money off of it for all those free sandwiches they gave away to the striking workers. So
it's funny to think of giving seafood sandwiches today. I mean,
I know. I can't imagine
maybe
anybody
it was
doing
like
that.
very inexpensive back then.
Yes,
yeah.
I think
today.
it was. It was more of a local food and not a very expensive food down in that area.
Yeah.
Where the seafood is so prevalent. Our shrimp is probably done now, and the time it took us to tell that story is about 3 minutes, so let's check it out. And those look perfect. And let me tell you, you could eat this breading right off the shrimp. It is absolutely delicious.
Beautiful. I know I could eat one of those right now. I need to put it in a
They're
sandwich.
really, really hot.
I'm
When
sure
they
they
first
are.
come out, I waited about 2 minutes last time and still burnt my mouth. So let's give it 1 more minute, and we're gonna assemble a sandwich with these shrimp. We've got our shrimp, and we've got our mayonnaise. And take a nice amount of that mayonnaise. It is spicy though, but it is delicious. Put it right on the bottom.
Nice. Can't have too much mayonnaise.
No, never. We're gonna get some nice lettuce, tomato, and then we'll take some of our shrimp, stack them right up. Might have a hard time closing the sandwich up, but I don't think anyone's gonna mind. And there we go.
Oh, beautiful.
Now that is truly an overstuffed sandwich.
And that's exactly how it's supposed to look.
Exactly,
When you see those travelogues from New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
A little bit of lemon on side for your shrimp, and there you go. There is our shrimp po' boy sandwich with the Cajun mayonnaise. And Lindsay, would you like to try some?
In the interest of good television, I won't try to put the whole thing in my mouth, but I'll just try a shrimp because
All
they
right.
look great. Oh, it's really good.
Excellent.
It's just from a fried seafood connoisseur.
Oh yeah, the breading is
Excellent.
just delicious, and a little bit of bite to it from that little pinch of cayenne pepper.
No, I can taste that. It's great. Thank you very much, Bethany.
Thank you.
So we have one more goodie that she's making. Now we're going to have a little dessert treat, and we'll have to stay tuned and watch out for that. We're back with our final Super Bowl recipe for our Super Bowl New Orleans party, and tell us about what you're gonna make.
For dessert, we're gonna make beignets. These are a staple in New Orleans. They are most famously made at the Café du Monde, where they serve them with coffee every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a couple exceptions. And so we're gonna start with those. They're a fried dough, a combination between the fried dough and a donut.
I think I've heard this is one of the best donuts you can buy.
Oh, they're amazing. They really are. I've also been able to have one of these, but it was years ago, and I've completely forgotten, so I need to go back very, very soon to refresh my memory. So what we're going to start with on this recipe, about 10 minutes ago, I started our yeast activating in the mixer. So it was a 3/4 cup of warm water, 1 packet of active dry yeast, and a pinch of sugar, and that stayed in the mixer. And I let it, on for a little bit and let it get lively in there. You can definitely smell the yeast
Oh yeah.
coming up. So to that, we're gonna add the 4th cup of sugar, and then a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk, and 1 egg.
And the egg is beaten, it looks like.
It's a little bit, yeah, you wanna let it go a little, because the dough hook isn't gonna do a whole lot to that egg for you, so let it go a little bit. Just gonna get that mixed up a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is we have 4 cups of flour. We're gonna add about half of it right now. Looks like about half. You don't really have to be scientific there.
I'm gonna put the mixer on really slow so we don't have
Yes.
a big flour cloud everywhere.
Although amusing for television, not so much for us. Let that go a little. I'm gonna help it out just a little bit. All right. At this point, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of shortening. Turn it off so I can get that in there.
Bethany, could you use butter in place of shortening?
The recipe doesn't call for butter. I think traditionally beignets are made with shortening, and all the research I did, it looked like all of them used shortening, so which is pretty surprising seeing it's a French donut and usually all they use is butter.
Exactly.
So I wasn't able to find the answer to that, but every recipe told me to use shortening, which I actually usually don't like to use.
Right. No, me too.
It's got its purposes.
It sometimes gives you a nice flakiness. You can't get that with.
It might be because
butter all the
we're
time.
frying it and the butter might not
true.
really work
No.
with the frying. Right. So once you add the rest of that flour in, your dough's going to firm up pretty quickly. And we'll help it out a little.
Looks like it's coming together nicely.
Yeah. And while that is getting ready, I'm just going to grab the bowl that we're going to put that dough in. What you're going to do for your dough is you're going to get a bowl, and then you're going to just put some butter in that bowl. Get it nice and coated. This is so your dough doesn't stick to the bowl while it's rising. So our dough is ready for us now. This is going to be a pretty firm dough. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to flour this work surface a little so that we can get this dough ready. All right. So you'll just want to turn this dough out on the floured surface and just get it into one nice big mass.
Looks like it's nice and springy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
If you need more flour, if it's feeling a little sticky, just add a little bit more until you get a nice, even piece of dough. All right, this dough is coming together for us. All right, so we're going to take this and put it in that buttered bowl. Now you're going to take this dough and either leave it out covered for 4 hours. I put a nice seal of plastic wrap over the top. Or you can refrigerate it overnight for it to rise. And through the magic of television, I happen to have one ready for us.
Oh, look at that, beautiful.
And here it is. You can tell it's risen, it's beautiful, It's looking great. So this dough is ready to be turned out and shaped before we fry it. I'm gonna gently get it out of the bowl.
I can hear the air coming out of it when you're pulling it out.
You can just smell that it's doing what it's supposed to do. As gentle as I can getting it out. All right. All right. So this is a beautiful piece of dough. What we want to do is try to form it into a rectangle about an inch thick so that we get nice 1-inch beignets.
Could you use your hands for that instead of the rolling pin?
Yes, I like to use the rolling pin just because it gives a good uniformity to it, but if you're good at doing it, you know.
Someone didn't have a rolling pin. They
Yeah.
could just kinda,
Yeah, they can just.
pat
That's
it
about
out.
an inch right there. It doesn't take a lot. All right, so we're going to cut this into little squares before we fry it. So you could probably do a better time forming it than me and not have to take so much off the edge. But here we go. So right there is going to be a perfect square to fry. couple more in there, maybe 3 at a time for the size fry later. These puff up pretty big.
So there you have about an inch square, but that's probably going to at least double in size.
Yes, definitely. So let's put that down in there. And those are going to take about 3 minutes, and about halfway through, we're going to flip them over.
Excellent.
Get the rest, another group going here.
Yours are so beautiful and perfect. But if, you know, if I was making them at home, they'd be like all kinds of weird shapes. And
I have a lot of waste here
trapezoids
today.
and
I think
stuff.
if I had tried a little harder, I could have made that. I could have made that rectangle a little better, but.
No, I think.
But these are. This is a good size. You don't want to get them too big because you don't want them to get too, you know, doughy on the inside. You want to be able to cook that all the way through, and it's going to take at least 3 minutes to do that. See how we're doing in there. Sometimes these even flip over all on their own because they puff up on one side and then they get heavy and they flip over. But if they don't, make sure you flip them over about halfway through. So those beignets are really starting to puff up there in the fry later. They got a couple more seconds on them. They're looking perfect though. Basket ready.
And that oil is a 350?
Just about. The home fry laters, some of them have settings and some of them don't. This one doesn't, so we're guessing it's probably around 350, which is pretty standard.
How would you know when it was ready if you didn't have a temperature gauge?
Well, this one lights up for us, tells us when it's ready.
Okay.
You can also temp your oil if you're going to use a stovetop, because you can also just take some oil and cook it up on the stovetop as well. You're going to want to keep it at a constant temperature, though. Keep an eye on that. Keep it at 350, where one of these handy devices keeps it at 350 for you, which is nice.
Right, that is nice.
And I think they are ready to come out. They look perfect.
Oh, those look so nice. Perfect.
And we're just going to take a little bit of powdered sugar. There we go. Beignets New Orleans style.
Bethany, can I try one?
Yes,
oh,
be very careful because they did just come out of the fryer later.
Oh, I can feel how hot it is. Maybe I'll just take a little piece off the side.
Fried food, you always have to be very careful.
That's true. Oh, it's so good. It's, no, it kind of tastes like fried dough from the fair, but it's much better.
Yes, it's very similar to a fried dough,
but better.
Yes, and if you cook up this food for your Super Bowl crowd, they are going to be very happy with you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our Super Bowl cooking program. So I'm Lindsay Paris. I want to thank Bethany Sullivan and Sam and Michelle Ambra, and keep on cooking. We'll see you next time.